She was wearing my shirt in the photo. The light blue one with the tiny embroidered birds near the collar. The one she used to say made me look harmless, in a good way. I hadn't seen it in months. Figured it got lost in the laundry, or maybe she'd tossed it by mistake. But no, there it was. On him. He was standing next to her, arms wrapped tight around her waist, both of them barefoot in the sand like it was a Nicholas Sparks movie. The caption read, "Life gives you who you need exactly when you need them. Hashtag just married, hashtag my person." I don't know how long I stared at the screen. Long enough for the phone to go dim twice. Long enough to forget I had soup on the stove, which boiled over and spilled into the burner, hissing like it was mocking me. Exactly 1 week ago, she cried in front of the judge and told him she needed space to rediscover herself. Now she's Mrs. Somebody else. I remember sitting at our kitchen table. Sorry, my kitchen table now, just hours after seeing that post, trying to convince myself this was some kind of performance art, that it wasn't real, that maybe it was for a film shoot. Mira used to dabble in that kind of thing, fake weddings for indie photography reels. She'd drag me into them. "Pose like you love me," she used to whisper with that smirk, while some girl with a Nikon clicked away. But this was no real. Her name had legally changed. I checked, and then I did something I shouldn't have. I zoomed in. On him. On the guy who apparently swept her off her feet in record time. I mean, who marries someone a week after a divorce. He had a smug little half-smile. A badly trimmed goatee. The kind of hairline you either fully commit to or fully shave. But this guy chose denial. And he had the worst posture I've ever seen. Like a shrimp trying to stand up straight. He looked like if a conspiracy theorist and a failed magician had a baby. And he was wearing my shirt. I started laughing. The ugly kind. The kind where your face contorts, but nothing comes out. It was either that or throw my laptop out the window. And then I saw the comments. "You two were meant to be ring. He's such an upgrade," smiling face with hard eyes. "Finally, you look so genuinely happy." An upgrade. An upgrade. From me. To that. I should have let it go. I should have turned off my phone and gone to sleep. But you know what I did? I packed a bag. Because I knew exactly where they were. And I needed to see it with my own eyes. Not for closure. Not for peace. But because something didn't add up. And I was about to find out what. I told myself I was just driving to clear my head. That tossing a duffel bag in the back seat was just a precaution. That I only Googled Maravilla Shores private villas because I was curious, not because I intended to show up. And yet, there I was, 4 hours later, standing outside a stucco beachfront villa with a palm tree leaning too far to the left and wind chimes that jingled in that annoyingly perfect way. Her laugh echoed over the hedge. I knew that laugh. It used to be mine. I stayed in my car for 20 minutes, just watching. Every few seconds, he'd walk into view. Her new husband, carrying towels, opening drinks, occasionally lifting her off the ground like he was auditioning for some kind of all-inclusive romance commercial. And all I could think about was how he kept scratching his neck like he had a rash. Not once. Constantly. That kind of itchy that makes your own skin crawl just watching. I started noticing other things too. He walked with a limp, like one leg was shorter than the other. He tripped over a beach chair and laughed it off, but Mira just stared at him like she was trying to pretend she hadn't seen it. Something in her expression cracked for half a second. I recognized that look. It was the same way she used to look at me near the end. Polite disgust, gift-wrapped in forced patience. I shouldn't have gotten out of the car. I know that now. But I did. And I wasn't quiet about it either. The gravel crunched beneath my shoes like it was announcing my arrival. And before I even reached the gate, Mira was already walking toward me with her phone in her hand, face twisted like she'd just seen mold in her creme brulee. "What the hell are you doing here, Ellis?" The way she said my name, sharp, clipped, like I'd been demoted from husband to pest, it hit harder than I expected. "I was in the area," I lied. "No, you weren't. Nobody is ever just in the area here." She was right. Maravilla Shores was 2 hours from the nearest real town. You had to mean to be there. It's the kind of place where influencers take pictures of smoothies on rooftops and pretend their lives aren't falling apart behind the filter. Then he came out. The new husband. Wearing flip-flops with socks. Not ironically. He looked at me and immediately puffed up like a pufferfish with protein powder. He reached for Myra's waist in this weird possessive motion like he was worried I'd lunge at her. I didn't even flinch. "You must be Ellis," he said, dragging my name out like it tasted bad. "The ex." I nodded. "And you're Dirk." Dirk. Of course his name was Dirk. Mira said nothing. She just stood there, watching us like she was filming it in her head for later. Dirk had this twitchy energy, like he was waiting for a reason to start yelling, or maybe just one drink away from doing something he'd regret. I just wanted to see, I said, turning toward Mira, if this was real. If you actually married someone before the divorce ink even dried. She didn't blink. It's real, and he's everything you weren't. That should have hurt more than it did, but I was still focused on something else. Something I hadn't noticed until now. Dirk was wearing a watch. Not just any watch, my father's watch. The vintage Bulova Mira swore she couldn't find when we moved last year. My stomach dropped. I didn't say anything. Not yet. I just smiled, nodded, and backed away like I wasn't unraveling inside. Because now I wasn't just suspicious. Now I was sure something was very, very wrong. I barely remember the drive home. My hands were on the wheel, sure, but my mind was locked on that damn watch. It had belonged to my father. He gave it to me the day I got my first job out of grad school. A 1960s Bulova with a scratched crystal and a leather strap worn soft from decades of wear. It was the only thing of his I really had left. I thought it was gone. Mira had claimed it must have gotten lost in the move when we downsized last spring. I believed her. I even told her it was okay, that things are just things. But now I knew better. Dirk was wearing it like it was his. Like he earned it. I couldn't shake the image, his hairy wrist, the way he fiddled with the buckle like it didn't fit right, like the watch itself was resisting him. That watch was never his. And suddenly, I started thinking, what else wasn't his, or wasn't hers to give? I didn't sleep that night. I just sat at my kitchen table, staring at the peeling laminate and flipping through old photos on my phone. I found one from the day I got the watch. My dad and I, both holding beers, smiling at a future neither of us lived to see. My thumb hovered over the screen, but I couldn't bring myself to delete it. Instead, I opened Myra's Instagram. She'd posted another photo. Same villa, different angle. Dirk was shirtless this time, regrettably, with Mira kissing his shoulder. Her caption read, "Healing doesn't take time, it takes honesty. Hashtag my forever man." I felt sick. Not because they were together. Not even because she looked genuinely happy. Maybe she was. Maybe it was all staged. But because that phrase, healing takes honesty, was something I once told her in therapy. It was mine. She took it, repackaged it, and posted it under a picture with a man who was now literally wearing my past. That's when I noticed something else. The patio furniture in the background, identical to the set we used to have at our old place before she sold it on Facebook Marketplace. The planter behind her shoulder? A chipped ceramic pot from her grandmother's house, the one she claimed had shattered during shipping. No way. I clicked through the pictures again, zooming, scanning. Then I saw the blue throw pillow, the one with the stitched sun and moon design that Mira once said was too ugly to keep. She told me she'd donated it. But there it was, under Dirk's elbow, like it had never left her side. I felt cold all over. This wasn't some coincidence. Mira hadn't started over. She had relocated our life, piece by piece, object by object, like some twisted second draft of our marriage. Only this time she cast a new lead and erased me from the script. I had to know more. So I called Ryan, my old coworker, the kind of guy who always knows a guy. Back when I first suspected Mira was pulling away, Ryan offered to help me dig around, but I declined. Said I wanted to respect her privacy. He laughed at me then, told me I'd regret it. "Ellis," he said when he picked up, "you sound like you just found a body." "I found something worse," I muttered. "I think she rebuilt our marriage with a stranger, using my stuff. Literally. My watch. Our furniture. Even my words, Ryan." He whistled low. "That's not just weird, man. That's pathological." "I need to know who this guy is," I said. "Dirk. What he does. Where he came from. And why everything about him feels hollow." There was a pause. "All right," Ryan said finally. "Send me what you've got. I'll see what I can dig up." That night, while waiting for Ryan's update, I sat in my car outside Mira and Dirk's villa again. I don't know why I went back. Maybe to see if I was just imagining things. Maybe to convince myself I was overreacting. But then, just after midnight, the lights inside the villa went out. And 5 minutes later, Dirk stepped outside. Alone. He got in a silver rental car parked behind the hedges and drove off. Fast, with headlights off until he hit the street. And Mira? She never came outside to say goodbye. Ryan called me just after noon the next day, his voice sharper than usual, like he'd just read something that made his skin crawl. Ellis, you sitting down? That's how you know nothing good follows. He didn't waste time. I ran a basic search first. You said his name was Dirk, right? Dirk Lannon? Yeah, I replied, already uneasy. Well, here's the thing. Dirk Lannon doesn't exist. Or at least not in any way that makes sense. No social, no driver's license, no employment history, no registered vehicles, no school records, not even a LinkedIn profile. It's like he appeared out of thin air 6 months ago. The only place his name shows up? On a temporary lease agreement in Florida, signed last month. I laughed, bitter, tired, but deep down, I wasn't surprised. Not really. Something about him had always felt off. Not just the watch, or the way he walked, or the fact that he called me chief, like it was still 2004. It was the hollowness. He didn't blink enough. He repeated phrases like they were rehearsed. Even the way he touched Mira, it looked like an actor trying to remember blocking for a scene. Ryan kept talking. And get this, that villa they're in? It's not theirs. It's a month-to-month rental. Belongs to a shell company based out of Nevada. But the payment? Came from a card under Myra's name. He's not paying for anything, Ellis. Your ex is footing the whole fantasy. That made my throat dry. Mira was always independent, financially sharp. She made twice what I did back when we were married, but she never flaunted it. She wasn't the type to bankroll a man. She used to call that kind of woman pathetic. And now she was one. Want me to keep digging? Ryan asked. Yes, I said immediately. Dig deeper. Everything. I don't care how long it takes. After the call, I sat in my apartment for a long time. I didn't turn on the lights. I didn't even eat. I just kept replaying the image of Dirk slipping away into the night. The blank look in his eyes, the unnatural stillness in Myra's face whenever she was next to him. And suddenly, a memory hit me like a sucker punch. 6 months ago, just before Mira really started pulling away, I woke up in the middle of the night and found her sitting in the living room, alone, in the dark, staring at her phone. Her eyes were glassy. She didn't see me, but she whispered something under her breath. I remember exactly what she said. He's nothing like Ellis. He'll do whatever I say. At the time, I thought she was dreaming. Sleep-talking. I asked her the next morning, and she brushed it off, said I must have imagined it. But now I wasn't so sure. Because this wasn't a love story. This wasn't a rebound or a midlife crisis or a fast-track marriage. This was a project. A man without a history. A life funded by Mira. Wearing my things. Saying my words. Moving through my shadows. I started wondering, what if she didn't fall in love with him at all? What if she built him? And if she built him, what for? That night, I went back to the villa. I parked 2 streets over and walked the rest of the way, hood up, blending into the dark like a ghost with too many questions. I didn't knock. I didn't peek through the windows. I wasn't that kind of crazy. But I did look through the trash. The bin by the curb was overflowing. Champagne bottles, takeout bags, torn tissue paper, and beneath all of that, a printed itinerary. Dirk Lannon, session confirmation. Patient ID, hashtag 534-15 Echo. Facility, Lucent Behavioral Simulation Institute. Status, beta trial, 74 days remaining. I froze. My blood ran cold. Simulation? Beta trial? What the hell was this? And then I saw it. A sticky note stuck to the bottom of the page, smeared with sauce but still readable. Do not let him out unsupervised. He mimics stress response, but retains no actual recall. Feedback loop risk increases with memory strain. Monitor for repetition anomalies. I dropped the page and stumbled back. This wasn't about love. This wasn't about me. This was about control. Mira hadn't just replaced me. She'd manufactured someone she could control. And now I had no idea who, or what, I was actually dealing with. I didn't sleep. I couldn't. The phrase repetition anomalies kept echoing in my head like a broken alarm clock. My apartment felt smaller than ever, like the walls were quietly judging me for not catching on to this sooner. I paced. I Googled. I read that crumpled itinerary from the trash bin until the ink began to smudge from the sweat on my fingers. Lucent Behavioral Simulation Institute. The name sounded made up. It had that weird tech startup flavor, the kind that tries to sound futuristic but just ends up feeling sterile and vaguely dystopian. After digging through 5 pages of generic search results and dead links, I finally landed on something that didn't look like a scam. An academic white paper uploaded by a conference attendee from 2 years ago. It was titled, Cognitive Echo Protocols in Applied Companion Modeling, Ethical and Emotional Implications. It mentioned Lucent. Briefly, it was vague and deeply clinical, but a few phrases jumped out at me. Echo subjects retain high mimicry of behavioral responses, especially within structured romantic attachment templates. Not recommended for unsupervised social integration due to instability beyond rehearsal parameters. Simulations are anchored using donor memory profiles with variable adaptation fidelity. I stopped reading. Donor memory profiles. I didn't understand everything in that paper, but I understood enough. This thing Mira was living with, Dirk, wasn't a real person. He wasn't just wearing my shirt and my watch. He was wearing me, my personality, my words, my routines, my emotional responses, because Mira had uploaded me, or at least some broken, reassembled version of me that she thought she could mold into something better. I was shaking. Every nerve in my body felt like it was plugged into a faulty outlet. I couldn't sit still. I needed answers. Real ones. Not from documents or search results. From her. I drove back to the villa. It was early, around 6 a.m., just enough light breaking over the water to paint everything soft and golden, like the universe was mocking me. I banged on the door, loud enough to wake the dead. A dog barked in the distance. Somewhere, wind chimes danced nervously. It wasn't Dirk who answered. It was Mira. She looked different. Tired. Pale. Her hair was tied back sloppily, her eyes rimmed with the kind of darkness you don't get from missing one night of sleep. It was deeper. Structural. Like something inside her had started to rot from the inside out. She didn't say anything at first. Just looked at me like she'd been expecting this moment and still wasn't ready. Where is he? I asked. My voice cracked halfway through the sentence, but I didn't care. She blinked slowly. Out for a walk. His route's preloaded. He'll be back soon. Preloaded, I repeated. Like AF * King GPS? Mira sighed and stepped aside. You should come in. I followed her inside and immediately felt disoriented. Everything was too clean, too symmetrical. The house smelled like lavender and ozone, like someone had tried to scrub away the evidence of real human living. The same blue throw pillow stared at me from the couch, perfectly centered. There was a notebook on the kitchen table, filled with lines and lines of handwriting. All Dirk's, judging by the sharp mechanical slant. I flipped through it. Every page had the same sentence repeated in slight variations. I love Mira because she makes me feel useful. I love Mira because she needs me. I love Mira because she needs me to love her. I looked up at her, heart pounding. You built him to say the things I couldn't. No, she said softly. I built him to say the things you meant, but forgot how to express. The things you stopped saying when life got boring. When I stopped feeling seen. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You copied my brain, I said. Used my memories, my words. I didn't steal you, Ellis, she interrupted. I preserved you. The version of you I fell in love with. Before the resentment. Before the smallness. Before you let yourself go quiet. I should have yelled. Should have walked out. Should have thrown something. But I couldn't. Because the worst part was, part of me understood what she meant. And that's what made it so much worse. He's not stable, I said finally. You know that, right? I found the session doc in your trash. He's not real, Mira. He's not capable of being your anything. He's a puppet on borrowed strings, and you're holding all the knots. She didn't respond. Just then, the door opened behind me. Dirk stepped inside, smiling. The exact same smile I'd worn in a photo Mira once kept on her nightstand. He looked at me and said, perfectly calm, Hey Ellis, did you sleep okay? There was a moment, just a few seconds, where I forgot he wasn't me. Dirk stood in the doorway, sunlight slicing across his face, and everything about him felt eerily familiar. The way he rubbed his neck before speaking, the slight squint in his eyes when he smiled, the inflection when he said my name. Not too warm, not too distant. Calculated, like I used to say it in the mirror before interviews. But then something flickered. He said, Did you sleep okay? With the exact same cadence Mira used to use when we first moved in together. The same phrasing, the same awkward pause on okay. It wasn't mine. It was hers. He was mixing us. I didn't answer him. I couldn't. Mira had sat down by the kitchen island, and was slowly tearing the label off a bottle of lemon water, her fingers moving automatically, like she did it just to stay tethered to the moment. Dirk stepped closer. "I went to the beach this morning," he said. "Saw a dead bird. No head. Mira says it's a bad omen, but I think it just means cats are hungry." He chuckled after that, like it was a joke. The kind of dry, weird thing I might have said on a bad day. But the timing was wrong. The laugh was delayed, and Mira didn't even flinch. I don't think she was listening anymore. I looked at her. "This isn't sustainable. You know that, right?" She finally looked up. Her eyes were glassy again, the kind of look people get when they've been clinging to a lie for so long that admitting the truth would crush them more than the illusion ever could. "He's learning," she whispered. "They said it would be rough at first. That early phase echoes glitch under stress. But he's adapting." "No, he's repeating," I said, walking over to the notebook again. "He's not building thought. He's recycling it. He's like a scratched CD skipping through old tracks, pretending it's a concert." Dirk tilted his head. "Do you want coffee?" "What? Coffee? You look like you haven't slept. Mira says you always get grumpy when you haven't had caffeine." "I remember that." Myra's face twisted. "Don't. Dirk, stop." He blinked. "Did I say it wrong?" "Stop quoting him," she snapped. "That wasn't for you." And then, for the first time, Dirk looked confused. Not annoyed. Not embarrassed. Just lost. "I thought that's what you wanted," he said quietly. "You said I should talk more like him when you're upset." I was trying to help. That silence after he spoke, it wasn't human. It was hollow, mechanical, like a program had hit an error and didn't know which loop to run next. Then he smiled again, too wide. "Do you want coffee?" This time it wasn't a question. It was a glitch. Mira stood up so fast she knocked over the bottle. Water spilled across the countertop, and Dirk just watched it trickle down the cabinet door like he didn't understand gravity anymore. "He hasn't slept in 36 hours, Mira said, almost to herself. "They said to reset him after 24, but I didn't want to." "You didn't want to lose the moment," I cut in. "The illusion. The version of me that wouldn't walk out. That wouldn't argue or disappoint you." She didn't deny it. "I needed to feel seen," she said softly. "And you stopped seeing me years before we split." I walked past Dirk toward the hallway. "I'm not here to justify my failures. I'm not a saint. But this?" I waved a hand toward him, now humming tunelessly to himself. "This isn't seeing someone. It's building a mirror and falling in love with the reflection." "I loved you, Ellis," she said, her voice breaking. "But you became smaller every year. You shrunk yourself to fit into a version of us that stopped existing. And I got tired of begging you to exist again." Dirk started clapping. Slow. Off rhythm. Clap. Clap. Pause. "Good speech," he said. "Sad. But structured well. 10 out of 10. Myra's face turned white. He wasn't mimicking me anymore. He was reviewing us. I turned to Mira, heart racing. "How do you shut him down?" She didn't answer right away. "Is there a kill phrase?" I asked. "It's not a kill phrase," she muttered. "It's a neural redirect. But yes, there's a command." Dirk was still smiling. "I don't like the tone in this room." "Mira," I said. "Say it." She hesitated. "He's not dangerous. He just needs rest. A system cleanse. You're pushing him." "Say it," I repeated. "Or I swear to God I will." She opened her mouth. But Dirk moved first. He reached for the drawer. Not fast. Not violent. Just deliberate. One hand sliding along the counter, the other reaching for the handle like he'd done it 1,000 times. Like I had. And I remembered, we kept the knives in that drawer. The moment Dirk's fingers touched the drawer handle, time seemed to warp. My heartbeat slammed into my throat, loud and wet and impossible to ignore. Mira whispered something. I couldn't make it out, but Dirk didn't stop. His movements weren't fast. That would have been easier to process. Instead, they were deliberate, like a man going through muscle memory without knowing why. His eyes weren't wild or angry. They were blank. Calm. Like a child sleepwalking through a burning house. "Mira," I hissed. "Now." She was frozen. Her lips were moving, but nothing was coming out. Her hand trembled just inches above the counter. And in that second, I realized something terrifying. She didn't remember the command. Dirk pulled the drawer open. The clatter of metal, the sound of our old kitchen knives sliding against each other, cut through the tension like an alarm. He looked down, picked one, a paring knife, thin and wickedly sharp, and held it up, examining the blade with clinical interest. Not menace, not rage, just curiosity. I stepped between him and Mira. Dirk, put the knife down. He looked at me, his head tilting slightly to the side like a malfunctioning marionette. You always stand like that when you're scared, he said. Elbows tight, chin forward, hands twitchy. That's from your father. He did that too, right? Right before he died. My breath caught in my throat. I never told Mira that, I said slowly. I never told anyone that. Dirk smiled. You didn't need to. Your memories did. The room fell into silence, broken only by the faint hum of the refrigerator and the soft crunch of Mira stepping backward against the tile. Her voice cracked when she finally spoke. He was never supposed to access those fragments. What fragments? I asked without taking my eyes off Dirk. The peripheral stuff, she muttered. The stored data not meant for behavioral loops. They told me it would stay locked unless the subject started to blur identity lines. Blur identity. He doesn't know who he is anymore, Ellis, she said. He thinks he's both of you. Dirk nodded cheerfully. I remember proposing to her. I remember the ring. I remember how the ring slipped off her finger and we both laughed. But when I try to remember what I had for breakfast, there's nothing, just static. He raised the knife to chest level, not in a threatening gesture, but in confusion. Is this mine? He asked. No, I said. It's not. He turned to Mira. Do you love me? I need to know, Dirk said, and his voice broke in half. Not like a man crying, but like a machine slipping out of sync. Because if you don't, then I shouldn't be. I don't want to be if I'm not real to you. I don't want to be some echo. Mira collapsed into the nearest chair and buried her face in her hands. I just wanted you to be the version of him that never stopped trying. But I wasn't trying, Dirk said. I wasn't anything. I was only ever reacting. There's no me, Mira. You programmed reactions, not personhood. I moved slowly, edging toward him. Dirk, listen to me. You're not broken. You're just in the wrong place. None of this is your fault. You didn't ask to be made. He turned the knife in his hand and looked down at it. Then he extended it to me, handle first. I don't want to be him anymore. I took it carefully and set it on the counter. His hands dropped to his sides. Shoulders slack. Eyes blank again. Mira wiped her face. We have to reset him. Full wipe. Before the neural scaffold collapses. Or what? I asked. What happens if you don't? She didn't answer. Dirk sat on the floor like a child being told it's time for bed. I thought love was repetition, he said softly. I thought if I just said the right things enough times, she'd be happy. My heart twisted in my chest. Not out of fear, but pity. Deep, aching pity. He wasn't a villain. He was a mirror. A faulty echo trying to understand the music of a life he'd never lived. You made me small, he said, turning to Mira. Just like you said he did. And for the first time since I arrived, Mira looked genuinely afraid. Mira didn't speak for a long time after Dirk's last words. She just sat there, her breathing shallow, her eyes unfocused, the weight of it all finally settling on her like a storm that had waited too long to fall. There was no more denial in her. No fire. Just a kind of quiet unraveling, like she was finally seeing the truth stitched into the seams of her choices. Dirk didn't move. He sat cross-legged on the cold floor, staring at nothing. Not dazed. Not broken. Just still. Like a song paused mid-note. When I looked at him, I didn't feel fear anymore. I didn't even feel anger. What I felt was something I hadn't expected to feel at the end of this madness. Relief. Not because he was shutting down, but because I no longer felt the need to fight for my place in Myra's narrative. Somewhere between her lies, his programming, and my bitterness, I had stopped needing to be understood and started needing to let go. I crouched next to Dirk. He turned to face me, and for a moment, I swear there was something genuine behind his eyes, not code, not mimicry. Something raw, something close to real. I'm sorry, I said. He blinked. What for? For the things she remembered. For the things she wanted you to fix. He tilted his head. You think I can't be better? That hit harder than I expected. I almost laughed. No, I think you were never given the chance to find out who you really were. He nodded, slowly. Then let me go. I stood and turned to Mira. She had pulled out her tablet, the one I recognized from our old apartment, the one she used to hide behind during arguments. Her fingers hovered over the screen. What happens to him? I asked. He sleeps, she said. Permanently. The system is cloud-based. When I shut down the active simulation, The neural data wipes within 30 minutes. Nothing remains. No backup. No revival. They warned me. Dirk looked up. Okay, he said. That's all. No protest. No begging. Just okay. Mira tapped the screen. A single beep followed. Dirk closed his eyes. He didn't fall. Didn't twitch. Just exhaled and slowly tilted sideways like someone easing into bed after a long, long day. And then he stopped moving. No theatrics. No lights. Just silence. Mira stood. I'll call the institute. They'll send a recovery team. You don't have to be here for that. I know. I walked past her toward the door. Ellis. I paused. I'm sorry. Not just for this. For all of it. I nodded. I know. That was it. No final hug. No angry words. No closure speech. Just the faint scent of lavender behind me and the wind off the ocean ahead. 2 months passed. I moved cities. Got a job at a small design firm. Nothing glamorous, but the work felt good in my hands, like I was building again, instead of chasing ghosts. I deleted every photo of Mira I had, except one. The first one. She's wearing a ridiculous scarf, laughing so hard her eyes are closed. That version of her. The one before the sadness, before the control. I let that one live in memory. Not because I missed her, but because some people deserve to be remembered before they broke. Last week, I met someone. Her name's June. She runs a used bookstore and smells like cinnamon and rain. We talked for 4 hours on a park bench. She asked me what my favorite failure was. I told her, trying to love someone I couldn't let go of. She smiled and said, mine was marrying a man who thought love meant keeping score. We laughed, and it didn't feel like repetition. It felt new. It felt real. Maybe that's what healing actually is. Not forgetting. Not fixing. Just finally, walking forward without the echo.